And so basically you can just assume that the last like 2 weeks of my life I have been in pajamas and no makeup, maybe not a shower. And that's why I haven't been able to do a vlog. Not because I have nothing to say, but because I look like a zombie from Love and Decay. I look like you should pick up a handgun and shoot me before I bite you and make you zombie food. Anyways, don't really shoot me. I was kind of morbid. Also, my first curly hair vlog since I did the whole haircut. And I like my haircut. I really do. Like, I love it. But I have no peripheral vision. Do you see this? Like, none. And half the time I can't see, and it drives me a little bonkers. Like, I feel like a crazy person. And yesterday I could not, like, my computer cord was stuck under my chair, but I couldn't find it because my hair was all in my face, and I felt so special. Sometimes I feel like a walking blonde joke, and now I at least can blame it on my hair. Anyways, actually, my hair is one of the questions today. So, moving on to start this vlog, because my write-in Wednesdays tend to go on forever, so I'm chop. I'm gonna be on top of things today. So let's begin. The first question is, how does co-writing work between authors? And I kind of feel like I've talked about this before, but I can't remember if it was on here or on my vlog or where it was or if I dreamed it. So anyways, between Lila and me, we went back and forth because we live like miles apart. She's from Louisiana and I'm from Nebraska, obviously. So there was never a time when we were together while we were writing it. And so we started, the initial idea was like text messages that turned into phone calls. And then before we began, we had this long Skype. It was like 2 hours where we never talked about the book once. Well, we decided a few things like character names or whatever. And then it went from there. And so then I think maybe we talked on the phone a couple more times, but I would write a chapter. I didn't know if we were like keeping it under wraps, but I wrote Cammie and she wrote Stockton, and I feel like if you've read any of what I've written, then I think it's kind of obvious which perspective I wrote, even though the book flows seamlessly. It just I don't know, I have a telltale way of writing. So anyways, I wrote Cammie, and so I wrote the first chapter, and then we went from there. And every chapter, like sometimes we would plan, like we planned several things that didn't make it in the book, but just because depending on how the chapter goes, I don't think any author can really like fully predict how their chapter will be written. Like you might have a point you want to get to, but sometimes that changes during the creative process. So, and that happened to us a lot. So I would get her chapter and then be completely inspired. Like it's one of the most inspiring ways to write. Like if you're starting out writing, I highly suggest co-writing a book, just because not every chapter is up to you, and that can be the hardest part of writing, is like getting the next chapter done, like making progress in your book step by step. Well, I would send the chapter off, and when I would get it back, it would be 6,000 words deeper as the book as a whole, and it was and plus I had this whole new insight into the story. So it was very inspiring. Every time I got a chapter back, like almost every time, because I get busy with all the kids, but I would like sit down immediately and just start writing, because it was like that inspiring. Like I just wanted, oh my gosh, Stockton said this and I need to respond or whatever. So that's how we did it. We went back and forth chapter to chapter. I'm co-writing a second book with a first-time author, actually. It will be her debut book, and she lives in Omaha with me. So we will sit down together and kind of plot plan together. And so this book is like young adult paranormal. It's about witches, and I'm kind of in love with the story. But we are not going back and forth from perspective to perspective, but we will still switch chapter to chapter. It's just like an easy breaking point. Like you have X amount of words that you need to write right when you're finished, send it back to me. That kind of thing. So that one is actually, and it's not, like I said, it's not alternating perspectives, but it is in third person, which I've never written a book in, so we're kind of stumbling through it together. It's a really interesting concept for a book, and it's a really, well, you know me, obviously I wrote the first chapter because I'm obsessed with them, but it's a really fun first chapter. It's just very interesting. It's not witches like Reckless Magic at all. It's very spell oriented, kind of more of a classical version of witches, but I have a thing for witches. If I could be any supernatural creature, it would be a witch. I look like a witch on a daily basis. It's like my thing. So anyways, answering questions you're not even asking. That's me. That's my vlog. Okay, next question. Do I plan to write more star-crossed from Eden and Kieran's point of views? This is a question that's up in the air. I don't know how to answer it. No, I do not have a story currently in my head that features Eden and Kieran other than what is being written about them in this extension of the Star-Crossed series. There will be more Kieran perspectives. I think, I would like, if you guys are up for them, if you want them, then I will continue to write them. I'd still like to write his proposal / Eden, the end of Hopeless. That drama, I would really like to write that from Kieran's point of view. And I had started a novella from Kieran's point of view that kind of highlighted his relationship with Avalon, and I scrapped it because I thought it was really boring. There wasn't Eden in it because she's off with Jericho at the time, and so to me that was boring for you guys. If I'm reading, I don't want to read about two guys becoming friends. I want to read about the love story. So, but then I had some people read it, and I got some interesting feedback about it. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Do I want to write about Eden and Kieran now that they're married? The answer is no. I don't really. And I've played around with the idea of maybe a Christmas novella. Now don't hold me to that because I am really busy with the projects I have, and I feel like I have a commitment to get them out to the people who are waiting for especially sequels or installment series books. So, but I do kind of like the idea of writing little something from them. But here's my biggest issue with writing from Eden and Kieran is that they are in love, and they are in the kind of love that isn't they're not gonna almost get a divorce. They're in that really gooey, mushy kind of love. And I personally have a really hard time writing about that. And I have a hard time reading that kind of love too. I like angst, and I like when there's issues that separate the couple and they can't get together, or they're whatever. You know what I mean? I like the chase. That's what I like, the chase. And I like the girl being won over and the boy pursuing the girl. So my issue with Eden and Kieran is that there is no more pursuit. There is no more chase. They are together, and I feel like anything that I write from them, from their perspectives alone, not just including them in a book, is really boring. And you guys might not think that, but it would be hard for me to create something from them if I'm already bored with them. I'm not bored with them, but you know what I mean? If I'm already bored with the story before I even write it. So, is that I don't know. I think that's a terrible quality in me. It says something about my personality, and I'm not sure what. But, so that's where I'm at. I think people want more Eden and Kieran. I do think that. And I just had the sweetest email from a high school girl begging me for more Eden. But I think if you were to think through the whole story, what, I don't know. I mean, there's a million different ways a plot could go. So I don't want to say that definitively. Yes, there could be outside influences that keep them apart or whatever. But I don't know, but then they're not together the whole story. So do you see where I'm at? Like, I don't know. Anyways, it stresses me out to think about it because I know you guys want more, but I don't know how to make it. I don't know how to create a story. At this point, I don't know how to create a story that's interesting that you wouldn't just get bored with immediately. So that's where I'm at. And like I said, there might be a novella, like a Christmas, like, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Okay, because I also have this adult book, and it's not adult. Like, I keep saying it adult. There has to be a better explanation of this book. It's adult contemporary because I would classify it in the adult section. Like, it's not new adult. It's not young adult. But it is not by any means like like a sexy book. It's just, I don't know. It's just very fade to black if there's anything. So I also feel this big pressure on myself to finish that book, not because for any reason other than I really want to tell this story. I really, really, really want to get it out, and I'm in love with it. And so so we'll see about the Christmas novella, but it would be nice. It would be fun. It would be like a sweet little Merry Christmas to all my fans kind of thing. So anyways, we're thinking about it, or I'm thinking about it. My husband is the one who came up with the idea, so thank him. How many Love and Decays will there be? And I've said this a couple different times, but there will be 12 this season, and next Friday, a week from tomorrow, will be episode 5. I'm hoping to get it done before Thanksgiving. I think I knocked it out, and that was possible. And then I will take 2 months off and then start season 2. Right now, I have in my head planned through season 2. There could potentially be a 3rd season. I'm definitely keeping that option open. But I am really liking this novella concept, like the whole way of writing it and the way it's releasing. And it seems to be pretty attention grabbing as far as readers go. So there's a couple other novella ideas I would like to start working on. Obviously not right now, but so that's what I don't know. I'll have to see where season 2 gets to, and then decide if there's a 3rd season or how badly I want to write this other novella idea. Or maybe I'll just quit full-length novels by then and just write novellas, which I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would do it for a year. Maybe I'd give myself a break. No, I don't know. That's too far ahead. I can't think that far ahead. I can't even think into next week. So, okay. Next question. Oh, hair products. I was trying to read my writing. Hair products. What hair products do I use? And I think people think there's like this magical combination of what goes in my hair to make it like this, like maybe a syrup or something. But the truth is, and this is me being very honest with you, I use the cheapest hair product you can find. And you can't even find it at every store. You can't. It's that cheap. I've used it since college. Well, the original curly hair product I used was a Suave gel. And you need to know that I did not know my hair was curly until my junior year of high school. I did not, well, it was the end of my sophomore year. But I did not know. I thought I had straight hair that was a little bit wavy and really frizzy, like frizzy. So when we found out, so it was really long, and then we cut it, and then it like did this. It like went like this. I'm not even kidding. And so my mom pulled out this gel that we had under the sink that nobody used, and it was Suave, and it worked really well with my hair, so I kept using it. They discontinued it my freshman year of college, and I was totally bummed because it was like $2 a bottle. And at that time, I was a poor college student, and I transferred from Suave to, I'm like embarrassed to say this out loud, but it's what I use. It's the only thing I use. LA Lux, the yellow gel. That's what I use. And I've used it ever since. And I've tried to switch up a couple different times, and I cannot find anything that does this to my hair. Like, this is second day hair. I didn't wash it this morning, so you'll have to forgive the frizz. But yeah, I don't know. Part of me is cheap and cannot imagine paying $25 for a bottle of gel, because you know, I use a fair amount every time I shower, which is not that often, but, and the other part of me just likes the way it looks better than any other gel. It really does. And I've tried mousses and cream gels and like anything, and hairstylists are always trying to get me to like use their expensive products. And even my hairstylist was like, you should not be using that gel, and I love her to death, but I can't help it. It's what I use. It's the only thing that works like this. And so it is the cheapest thing that you could possibly buy. And then in the morning, when it's like second day hair or whatever, and it's all crazy and sticking up everywhere, I literally spray water in it, and then I scrunch it, and I reactivate the gel. That's what I call it. I call it reactivating. So there is this Aussie, is that a brand? It's purple, that has like this spray gel thing. I forget the name of it. But, and I do use that occasionally, but mostly it's just water. Water and LA Lux. And that, now you know how cheap I am. Water and LA Lux. So, anyways, moving on from hair. I'm obsessed with my hair. Okay, so this next question is a really very thoughtful question from Bailey Artisone. And she is actually an author, and you should look her up because she is the sweetest person in the world, and I love her dearly. And she asked me a question about the StarCraft series. She asked if in Endless Magic, the cabin scene with Kieran and Eden, where she goes into his mind and, you know, gets to see all the truth from his perspective, if that was planned from the beginning, since I had her do that with Amory, or if it was not planned. And the truth is that when I wrote that scene with Eden and Amory, I hadn't actually planned to write that. Reckless Magic was very much a exercise in what can come out of not planning a book. And so I wrote all of this. I just wrote it, and I thought about it constantly, and it happened, hopefully, well. I mean, I really like how it ended, and I, of course, went back and filled in some plot holes in that. But I had never really thought any of that stuff through. Like, because, I mean, I wasn't published or anything, and I wasn't even sending out letters, so there wasn't, like, a point where I was, you know, like, how will the tattoo matter in the long run? How will the different species matter in the long run? Like, I didn't think any of that through. I just wrote the book I wanted to read as like a reader. So I had not thought further than that, except that when I created Kieran, I knew that he would betray Eden at some point. I knew he would be the anti-hero. And I didn't even necessarily plan the love triangle, but I knew that at some point Kieran would be the anti-hero, because I was very over literary heroes at that point. So, anyway, so then I wrote Hopeless Magic, and then I wrote Fearless Magic, and I brought a lot of things through the storyline that were in Reckless, but I had not brought that mind manipulation thing into the story. And in Hopeless and in Fearless, I had thought, you know, this is a really cool thing to me, and I want to bring it into the story, but there hadn't been opportunity. Like, there just hadn't been that moment where Eden needed to use it. So when I got to the end of Fearless, and I looked ahead, how am I going to redeem Kieran, you know, whatever, and it just clicked for me, and I knew that was it. I knew that was the moment, and so I kind of wrote. Okay, last question. Last question is actually something that I've been talking to a friend of mine about, not for the reasons that you think that will sound like, but whatever. Anyways, I'll just keep explaining so I don't dig myself into a hole. How do I stay grounded with my husband/marriage when I'm writing about these perfect men all day? Sorry, my hair is really itching my nose. Okay, when I'm writing about these perfect men all day, you know, every day. And it's a friend of mine had come to me and said almost the same thing, like, you know, like, I should stop reading because all the boys in books are perfect. My husband's not perfect. Um, and I said, yeah, but when you read my books, think that all the way through. Like, he's not real. Those are my thoughts. Um, Kieran's not the perfect man. He's a figment of my imagination. Like, he's not saying those things. I am. And she was like, okay, that makes this really awkward. but, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, when I'm writing, I don't, well, first of all, some of them most of the men are younger than me. And so I'm not a crazy cougar. Like, it's easy for me to separate. It makes me feel like I'm writing about one of my children, not a fantasy. Does that make sense? Like, this isn't the perfect man that I've dreamt up. It's a child of mine that needs his story told, so I'm going to tell it. So there's a lot of maternal instincts there that keep me from, I guess, falling for one of my characters over my husband. But the other thing is, like, my marriage to my husband is very real, and it's very every day he's a part of my life, and I'm falling more and more in love with him, and or some days I'm not, but it's still those emotions are very, very real. And because I think I'm in the creative world a lot, or like I'm using my imagination a lot, I have to be able to separate fiction from reality. Like, I have to, otherwise my reality in general would become very skewed. It would be very mental illness-esque. I have to be able to separate that. So it's easy for me to look at my husband and say, this is the man in my life, and then look at my characters in the books and look at them each like a character. And very fiction. Like, of course they're fiction, because if I started to think of them as real, that would be a whole set of issues. Now, that's a different topic, but how do I look at, I mean, I understand the question. Like, I'm writing about perfect men, and my husband will never be perfect. But I like to think that my characters aren't perfect either, that they all have their own sets of issues. And when Zach and I decided to get married, I chose him, and he chose me, and forever, that's our agreement. Like, there's no backing out of it for us. We're in this till the day one of us dies, or we both die, side by side, holding hands in a hospital bed. That would be my ideal way to go. Probably not gonna happen. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Then I was thinking about the Notebook, and well, whatever. Okay, so this is the love that I choose to be involved in and to be present in. Those characters, those perfect men, are never going to love me back. Like, those feelings will never be reciprocated. Those are nice to think about and like to read about, but they're not my life. That's not even my fantasy. Like, my marriage is where I want to be. Like, I want to be present with my husband, and I prefer him over any of the books that I've ever read. Like, there has never been, like, even before I was a writer, or while I've been a writer and still a reader or whatever, there has never been a man that I've read about that I've thought that I preferred over my husband. He is it for me. And whether that's like a choice that I make or just my opinion, I don't know, I can't separate that, but it's the truth, and it's how it has to be, obviously, for the health of my marriage and my love life. If writing were ever to become a problem, like an obstacle for my marriage, I would cut it out, because I choose that. I choose marriage over not marriage, or I choose my love, my husband, over not being in love with him. In the same way, I choose my children and a healthy home life for them over making something more important than that and them. So, I mean, it's not something that I honestly think about daily, but it is something that I've had to think about. I mean, it just comes up in conversations with women all the time, that as women we get wrapped up in these fictional worlds, and it's easy to want to replace reality, which is hard at times and difficult and neglectful and, hurtful, with books that never hurt us on a deeper level. I mean, even if you were crying over a book, even if the story has moved you so much to where you are affected by it emotionally, it's still shallow because those aren't real people. They aren't really in your life, and you can close the book and walk away, never open it again, and your life will go on. It's not going to quit, but you can't necessarily do that in real life relationships. And so I think it is a choice. I think you have to just be really cognizant of what's important. Like, it's easy to respect a fictional man because they don't ask anything of you in return, like trust, vulnerability, whatever the case may be, forgiveness. But in real life, men are not so easy. Men don't save the day daily. Men can be disappointing. And you have to decide that that's better, that love in all its facets, with all the negative stuff and the positive, is better because it's real in real life than it is in the fictional world that is not real, that that will never be fulfilling to you. Never, ever, ever. In fact, studies show that whatever, the more wrapped up in books that you can get, the less fulfilling it gets over time, and the more and more and more and more you need. So, yeah, I just choose it. Even though real life can be, like I said, hurtful and disappointing, it's real. It's what I choose to feel. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have anything to write about, because all my writing is in some way based off real life. Whether it's, I'm pulling from feelings I've had or experiences or trauma or whatever. I mean, places. I mean, it's relative. Like, it's not all like directly from experience, but it's pulled from that. So if there wasn't that, there wouldn't be, happily ever after. If so, anyways, I mean, whatever. Some of it's just, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. So, anyways, I hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. Thank you for sitting through all the babbling and the craziness that this vlog is. And we will talk to you later. Bye.